fabulous Los Angeles studio. Take a look at our all-star panel today. ESPN's Brian Windhorst, the icon, the great Jackie McMullen, and Frank Isola. You know, New York Daily News, Sirius XM Radio. Only been covering the league for a couple decades, Frank. Not only are each of these folks major NBA voices, they each happen to be particular experts in 3 of the NBA's most talked about teams, the Cavaliers, the Celtics, the Knicks. So we started thinking, what else do you do when you're a basketball show based in California? You have an East Coast bias show. Except Cleveland's not really on the East Coast.
It's on the North Coast, Rachel.
It's 3 o'clock where it counts.
Already. It's the Eastern Conference bias show.
Yeah.
Look, it looks like we're going to be spending a lot of time this season on The Jump talking about the West, all the stars that play in the Western Conference. So we figured, sneak in these East teams while we can. And, of course, the biggest question in the East is what is going to happen to the team that has dominated the conference the past 3 years. Kyrie Irving, as we all know, has asked for a trade, but the Cavs are in an interesting situation there. They don't just need collective value back for him. Sure, some picks in there definitely would be nice for this team, but that is not going to be a transaction that's only about the future like it was for, say, Chicago when they traded Jimmy Butler. The Cavs need at least one really good player on the incoming side of the ledger, someone who can help them get back to the NBA Finals, perhaps even threaten the Warriors. LeBron James only has 1 year left on his deal. The only way to re-sign him is to keep a highly competitive team around him. So, what is the best deal out there for Cleveland? Well, if you have spent the week furiously punching ideas into the ESPN trade machine, you are not alone. Last night, producer Steve here at The Jump challenged all 3 of our insiders up here to come up with their best Kyrie trade, the deal they would do if they were new Cavs GM Kobe Altman. And now, friends, the time has come. And let me warn you, you're all going to be judged by your peers
what
here.
Else isn't there?
Brian, what do you got?
I've got the best trade for Kyrie Irving, and thank you for starting with me. It's going to be to the Phoenix Suns for Eric Bledsoe and the guy they just drafted, Josh Jackson. And that is, I think, one of the best things that the Cavs could do. They could get a player that can help them immediately at both ends of the court and a player that theoretically could replace Kyrie Irving as an all-star as he develops.
Of course, Josh Jackson, the big red flag there is there are reports out in Phoenix. They've told him he's not going to be traded. Ramona Shelburne confirmed that. However, Brian, you say...
I'm sure that he has been told that, and Ramona is never wrong, but... Many players have been told they're not going to be traded, and then they get traded. It's one of the rituals of NBA. You might as well get Josh used to it right off the bat.
I mean, David Blatt stood up and said...
We're not trading Andrew Wiggins.
Right?
And that can
he
start
also
right
said,
there.
I'm going to keep my job.
He also said we're not trading Kyrie Irving. Why trade another star to the Western Conference? Have enough. And wouldn't Kyrie Irving say, you know what, don't trade for me because in 2 years when I'm a free agent, I'm definitely leaving Phoenix?
They could say that, and then they could tell Kyrie, well, we'll be glad to see you at training camp then. And he could pretty much call his bluff.
That's true. I mean, that's the thing with the whole oh, Kyrie has leverage, quote unquote, on where he goes. I don't think he has that much leverage because first of all, it's a 2-year deal. I've heard you say a few times in the last couple of days, you're not going to get anything much better than a 2-year deal now, right? You're not going to get someone traded on a 3-year deal. No. So also, look, he's the one who wants to be traded.
And I know you can't technically trade Jackson today because he just signed his contract.
Got to wait 30 days.
But you can trade him next week.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with Wiggins. They waited that month.
I think next week isn't a deal buster. I'm just going to stick my neck out.
All right, so Jackie, what do you think of Brian's trade?
I like it.
Thank you, Jackie.
I like it.
Well, that was a tepid.
It's not what I chose, so how can I say I liked it a lot? I got something better.
It was the third best trade.
Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got.
So I think that Kyrie Irving should end up with the Denver Nuggets.
Ooh.
You take Kyrie Irving and Iman Shumpert, and you trade him to the Denver Nuggets for Kenneth Faried, who has been involved in I don't know how many trade discussions with the Denver Nuggets for like a decade now, it feels like. Wilson Chandler, who earlier in the season said he wanted to be traded. I'm going to throw in Jamal Murray, and that's why Cleveland should want to do it. And I'll even give him a future first-round pick.
You're just giving stuff
Wow,
away.
this is a great negotiation for the Cavs.
Well, aren't I supposed to do what's best for the Cavs? Wasn't that my assignment?
Jackie, this is an excellent trade.
Well, I'm so happy, Brian, because I really wanted you to like it.
I don't think the Nuggets will give up Jamal Murray and Gary Harris. I think they'd be willing to give up one or the other.
But what about a future number one?
So you would plug in Gary Harris to where Jamal Murray was?
I might prefer to have Gary. I'd want both, to be honest with you, but realistically,
I'm not giving you both because it's my trade.
That's right. And I would do that by the Nuggets, too.
Now, Rachel touched on it. You did as well. The idea that Kyrie Irving can't dictate where he goes. Once again, this is not a team that he had on his list. I get it. No, he doesn't have a no-trade clause. But once again, what if he says, he and his agent, Jeff Wexler, you trade us to Denver, you got us for 2 years because we're definitely leaving. So proceed very cautiously.
And Denver will say, well, that's good because we just signed Paul Millsap for 2 years, and we have Nikola Jokic, and we're ready to go now, so let's go. Let's go for 2 years.
And Denver is all about making the playoffs this year. It's playoffs or bust.
That's true. Denver was dead last in the league in attendance last year. Kyrie Irving will sell tickets.
And you know what else? My daughter just moved to Colorado. I am really hoping this trade happens.
That's why. That's the bias. It's a Denver bias.
I got a Denver bias
The bias just keeps moving west, by the way. In the NBA this year, there's nothing we can do to keep anyone on the East Coast. I mean, look, part of this then, too, is Kyrie getting into the be careful what you wish for, because the standard then, if he gets traded to Denver, becomes what? You're trying to make the playoffs?
You know what? I think he gets traded to Denver.
Yes.
If you look at Denver's roster and you put Kyrie on there, minus the guys I discussed, I understand Murray and or Harris. That would be hard to swallow. I think they're pretty good. Now, are they good enough to beat Golden State? Are we going to say that for every single trade?
I will say this. If Kyrie was that, if they made Jackie's trade between Nikola Jokic and Kyrie Irving, you would have the most deadly point guard center pick and roll duo in the team and the worst defensive pick and roll.
But Jokic wouldn't care about Kyrie getting a ton of shots.
Probably not. And with Paul Millsap that would help you defensively.
Do you have enough perimeter shooting with that team, though?
You know, you might have to address that in such a way. But Kyrie is a good outside shooter.
And is he the man enough on that team that he would satisfy whatever part of that is part of this decision to leave?
I mean, I think Jokic is a better player long term, but Kyrie would certainly be the
Jokic
driver.
is really good.
Interesting.
Really
so
good.
let's talk about a team on Kyrie Irving's list.
All right, come on, Rachel. We'll make it more realistic now. And I tried to get him to the Knicks. But Carmelo Anthony is not going to go there, and the Knicks are not going to trade Kristaps Porzingis. So my apologies to everybody in New York first. But Miami is a team, and remember, Jeff Wexler is his agent. Alonzo Mourning, it's all connected. So how about Goran Dragic, a point guard, Justice Winslow, and to be nice, on July 31st, I'm going to throw in the draft pick, Bam Adebayo. So you get some players in return, and guess what? Cleveland's going back to the finals. Miami gets the point guard they wanted. Brian, I dare you to criticize that trade.
It's not enough.
Mr. Miami.
I'll make it extraordinarily easy. The centerpiece of the trade for Kyrie Irving can't be a 31-year-old point guard.
You bet.
I'm giving you two young players, Justice Winslow, and I'm giving you
Justice Winslow's had a terrible year. He had injuries. He can't shoot. He's had problems. His value is down. His value is down.
If you start apologizing in New York, Frank, we're going to be here all afternoon.
I
tried.
This goes back to what we said at the top of the show. Cleveland's needs here are different than a lot of other teams. They need to get back in trade a player who can help be a real number two to get you to the NBA Finals.
But there definitely is a second layer to this negotiation, and is what we've talked about here. We've glossed over it, but we need to focus on it. If Kyrie comes out, and whether it's him or his agent, and says, I am only going to re-sign with one of those teams on my list, New York, San Antonio, Miami, Minnesota, then you have an issue, and you have a stare down. And then a team like Phoenix or a team like Denver may lower their asking price because they realize it's a 2-year rental.
It's a rental.
Well, this is exactly what happened with Paul George.
This gets back to my trade scenario, which would just be a blank screen if we put it up there, so I don't think the producers are going to bother, which is if you can not get something excellent for Kyrie in return, my answer to them would be like, great, here's LeBron James, here's Kyrie. Sit down in a room, work it out, fellas, because if we have to wait until the trade deadline to make this happen, if I'm Cleveland, I'm not being forced into this at all. And if Kyrie goes out and lowers his own trade value by saying, I'm only going to these 3 teams, my answer would be, well, then, okay, you've made it too hard to deal you. Please attend training camp. Ty Lue is a lovely man.
Don't go to blank screen, Rachel. I got more trades here. I got Minnesota. I don't need the graphics. I got Andrew Wiggins. I got a different version of Denver.
Now you just shut up.
I got more trades. Don't give up yet, Rachel. It's only July 26th.
You're not Kobe Altman. You're not Kobe Altman.
Nobody mentioned San Antonio. Nobody mentioned San Antonio, which is, I think, at the top of Kyrie Irving's list.
Which is not good for San Antonio.
Brian and I have been texting about Wiggins. I think you need to get back more than Wiggins.
Wiggins.
They signed Jeff Teague.
We're going to be talking about this all the way through the break. Stick with us. We'll probably be talking about it when we come back. We will dive into the Celtics because we got Jackie Mack here. Is the East up for grabs? Can the Celtics slide in there? Stay tuned. Let's keep our Eastern Conference bias theme rolling with the Celtics. Although the Celtics are on the East Coast, so it kind of fits.
Yeah.
Danny Ainge, Boston, looking really good this summer. Isaiah Thomas isn't going to need hip surgery. Jaylen Brown tutoring Jason Tatum in a successful summer league. And then there is free agency prize Gordon Hayward, who chose to join his college coach Brad Stevens. So, Jackie, the Empress of Boston, please.
Wow. I didn't know we had one.
That's something new
Sure
every
it's
day.
not Doris Kearns Goodwin night.
I'm going with you.
Thanks.
I'm going with you.
Okay.
What would it take for Boston to win the East? Because the
So,
is crumbling over there.
Here's the thing. I've been around LeBron James a super long time. And until LeBron James leaves Cleveland or has an accident, which I'm not advocating in any way, shape, or form, the Cleveland still ends. I just think LeBron James is that good. The Celtics don't have an answer for him. They hope it's Jay Crowder. It's not. They hope it's Jaylen Brown. It's not. So as constituted, and we don't even know what Cleveland is at this moment, but we do know this much, that LeBron James is still on their team, and I have a hard time picking against LeBron James. I've done it a couple times before, and it's always come back to bite me.
What do you think?
Well, the Cavs have won, or I shouldn't say Cavs, LeBron has won 8 of the last 11 Eastern Conference crowns,
Yeah.
7
And it's
in a
not
row.
close. It hasn't been close.
I know, it was a 4-1 series. Now, granted, Isaiah Thomas was hurt, but it wasn't a particularly close 4-1 series.
And let's also remember, too, I'm not so sure I'm ready to say that Boston is that much better than Washington. That was a Game 7 last season.
Oh, I am.
Well, now we'll see Gordon Hayward in a situation like that. By the way, he's gotten out of the first round once in his career as well.
Yeah.
So
But
he's talented. Do they have enough rebounding, though? That was the issue last year.
And it's all about subtleties with the Celtics because they play a different style. You know, Brad Stevens cutting his positions into 3 unorthodox positions. Al Horford, people didn't understand. They still don't understand in Boston how important he was to them for the little things that he did.
Yeah.
I think Gordon Hayward's going to be the same way. Washington, what did they do to help their bench significantly? And that was their biggest problem. All they did was stand pat. I think the Celtics are significantly better. And I've said this before. You look at their future with the Brooklyn pick next year. If the Lakers pick falls between 2 and 5, the young picks they have, if it doesn't, then they get the Kings pick in 2019. Is there any team in the league besides Golden State right now positioned better than the Boston Celtics for the future?
I would take the Celtics' future over the Cavs' future.
Absolutely.
But short term, I'm taking the Cavs.
And that's why, too, you keep talking about the future, but it seems to be part of the plan. They hired all these analytic guys in Boston, and they crunched the numbers, and they came back and said, we have to wait for LeBron to get old and go away for us to finally because he's still there, and they're still going to go to the finals again.
But Frank,
he's that much better.
But they added a pretty big piece in Gordon Hayward, and they might add another piece going forward. I don't think they're done. I never feel like they're done because they have so many valuable draft picks.
A little bit getting rid of Avery Bradley. That was kind of a glue guy on the team.
We'll see, and he was a very, very good defender on the ball defender. They're looking at Marcus Smart to pick up his defense and to take that spot.
Is Boston going to give Isaiah Thomas a huge contract in a year from now? That, as you look at the future of the Celtics, that's the big one.
And as he keeps pushing for that Brinks truck, and whether that will
as he should,
and I think they will. I think they will, unless they make a blockbuster.
So, do you agree with Jackie? Do you think? I mean, look, you just said 8 out of 11 for LeBron James. There were a couple series where it was close. I mean, there was the infamous Boston Game 6. There was the Chicago series where they were behind in. Do you feel like, hands down, there's no competition in the East still, no matter what the Cavs look like?
I think the Celtics should be celebrating. I think they should pop some champagne that Kyrie is doing this. I think the gap will close and tighten.
But you don't think the East is up for grabs?
I would not use that term.
No.
So that's it. Are there any teams that could get in the mix? You like Washington?
I mean, Washington has a chance. I mean, Toronto did win 2 games off of Cleveland a couple of years ago, but I don't trust them. I don't trust any of these teams in a 7-game series against Cleveland.
Well, let me just keep an eye on the Milwaukee Bucks. They haven't had Chris Middleton, Jabari Parker, and Giannis Antetokounmpo together. They
may never will, Brian, though. That's the problem.
I know. I do hear Jabari's looking good in workouts, but obviously he's...
Stay healthy.
Yeah, they got to be healthy.
Welcome to July. What about your team, the Knicks? And by the way, I am not in any way putting them in the Eastern Conference crown
conversation. Got to get them in the playoffs first.
Well, that is the thing. I want to show... so this is a LeBron on team. Yes, exactly. Here are some numbers showing New York's defensive struggles. 25th in defensive efficiency, 24th in net efficiency, 27th in true shooting percentage, 2nd worst in win percentage after Christmas. I mean, look... At this point, is Chris Beck rooting for Carmelo to be traded? Does he want Carmelo with him? Where are things now for your New York Knicks?
And Rachel, you know how this works. If you're Chris Porzingis, every time that you go out there, not a lot is expected of you when you're not the #1 guy. So every time the Knicks don't win a game, well, Carmelo, you didn't do enough, and then, hey, maybe Porzingis should be the guy. I'm not so sure that right now Chris Porzingis is ready to be the #1 option every single night, where they're looking at him to score between 20 and 25 points and grab about 10 rebounds. It's a big responsibility to go from being the young guy who has all this potential now to being the guy that's being asked to do it every single night. Carmelo has provided a lot of cover for Kristaps Porzingis the last couple of years.
Phil Jackson provided cover for KP the last few
Yeah,
years.
but how long are you going to wait to find out? I mean, he's going to be in his 3rd year in the league.
That's going to happen soon enough.
Well, that's when you decide whether the guy's going to get a contract extension after the 3rd season. To me, what the Knicks should be doing is experimenting with him more at center. He doesn't have to play the center the whole game. I know he doesn't like to do it. But as they look to make a deal for Carmelo, they should be looking for ways to play him at center. I do like Willie Hernan-Gomez. I think he can play with him. But let's see what happens when he's your center. I actually think Tim Hardaway fits around him.
Overpaid for him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Overpaid for him. But so the idea of Porzingis playing center, to me, is somewhat amusing because Al Horford played center a significant portion of the year for the Boston Celtics. What does a center even mean anymore when you're a stretch guy like Porzingis, like Horford?
And how
It doesn't even mean the same thing
How
anymore.
hopeful are you for the New York Knicks? I mean, Frank lives in a world of fire and brimstone in terms of, is he ever going to be rescued?
Well, I mean, they're hitting the reset button, and I really, really like Porzingis a lot. And I think he's going to turn out to be a really transcendent player. I really do.
What's going to be interesting this year is watching how Frank Ntilikina plays.
Yep.
Watching how Dennis Smith
The
Jr.
junior plays.
Oh, you're going to be hearing about that every single day.
That's going to go the Knicks' way, that comparison? Nobody thinks that's going to go the
Maybe
Knicks' way.
over 3 or 4 years, we'll have a different discussion, but this first year, it's...
And remember one thing, Rachel, 26 games Porzingis has missed the first 2 years, so he has to prove he can be durable.
Keep an eye on that, too. We have to get to a break, but let's do so by looking back 25 years to when our own Scottie Pippen and the Dream Team played their first game in the Olympics in Barcelona. Scottie's going to be here in studio tomorrow, so we are going to look back at his experience, 25-year anniversary, with the team that most say is the best ever assembled.
No question.
I give it that.
Brian was in elementary school.
Right?
They could beat
I was
the,
on maternity leave.
they could beat the 2017 Warriors.
Fridays, Endless App.
We are on our Eastern Conference Bias Show, and it's time for the one-word game, notable teams and what they have done this offseason. We are starting with the Sixers, who traded, of course, for the #1 pick. They drafted Markelle Fultz. They also signed J.J. Redick, 1 year, $23 million. So, Brian Windhorst, please, what is one word to describe
One
the
word
Sixers?
is flexible. They can have as much cap space as they want next summer, and they may be attractive for some of these big-name free agents. Let's see.
1 year deal. Go ahead, Jackie.
Expensive. I like Redick signing, but $23 million, Amir Johnson $11 million, and a very high pick goes to get Markelle Fultz. And don't forget Joel Embiid's fine. Expensive.
Mine is smart, and I'm not talking about Marcus Smart. I'm talking about adding some smart veterans to that locker room. Got a lot of young guys. Now you had J.J. Redick, Amir Johnson. Good move by the Sixers.
How big a difference do you think that's going to make, Jackie? Because this was a team whose young players were pretty aimless for a couple seasons.
Redick's a good signing. I just think they bid against themselves a little bit on
Amir
the price
Johnson
tag.
gets $11 million. Derrick Rose gets $2 million. 2017
The NBA has
free
changed.
agency.
Next up,
And we don't care about big men anymore, supposedly.
the Washington Wizards. John Wall agreeing to a 4-year, $170 million extension under the designated veteran player exception. The Wizards also adding Jody Meeks, Mike Scott. Jackie, what is your one word for the Wizards?
Deficient. And I only say this, I like that they locked up Wall, that they locked up Porter, but their biggest thing was the bench. Did they add enough? I know they got Tim Frazier as well. I think they need to do more to their bench to compete with the Celtics and others.
I stole Jackie's word from before from the Sixers. It's expensive. I mean, I get it. You have to sign John Wall, but how about Otto Porter? He stole my word.
I would say great minds think alike, but
I went first. You stole it from me.
wow.
Stop cheating.
on the rundown, it was supposed to be me, so I wouldn't say it was a great mind.
But that's it. This is your contract.
$280 million to basically spend their wheels.
Yeah.
Yes,
For a team that can get out of the
Their
second
summer
round.
the previous summer,
you
also
just said you
expensive. Next, the Miami Heat. Miami failing to land Gordon Hayward, but the good news, hey, Kyrie Irving has them on their preferred destinations list, so you never know. What's the one word for the Heat the offseason, Frank?
Well, I'm going to go. It's my guy, Pat Riley. I'm going with pending because I'm not ready to say that their off-season is over just yet. I still think somehow, some way, they're going to get Kyrie Irving.
All right, Brian, you can go next.
Middling, they've spent a ton of money to have an average team. Sorry, Pat, that's the truth.
Jackie?
Almost, because we now know with some very good reporting that Gordon Hayward was this close to choosing them over the Celtics.
Oh, too bad. He always finished second.
Well,
He went to his college coach, though.
Wow.
They keep finishing second the last 3
Oh,
summers.
the Heat finished second. They don't have banners
In
up?
this Eastern Conference, I think middling and almost is probably going to end up being generally okay. Next up, the Raptors. Kyle Lowry re-signing with them to a 3-year, $100 million deal. Serge Ibaka also be in Toronto, his own 3-year deal. Dwayne Casey, he's the head coach at the moment. Frank, what is the one word to describe the Raptors offseason?
I'm going with pedestrian, just because we knew that they've been a good team, but it's kind of the same team. And Kyle Lowry, I understand you had to invest a lot of money, and I'm not too excited about the Raptors as a team that's going to probably get just to the second round.
Relief. I really thought Kyle Lowry might go somewhere else, and they locked him up. And I'm a huge Kyle Lowry fan. He's better than people think.
They're stuck, though, because they kept a couple of players, but they lost some players. They've spent a lot of money, and I think they're not as good as they were.
Yeah, but if the rest of the conference, the talent level goes down.
Is that what you're going for?
Is that
what you're going for?
You go up. That's all I'm saying. At the buzzer, Derrick Rose has accepted LeBron's offer to work out together in Las Vegas. This is reported by Chris Haynes. Also expected to participate is Suns point guard Eric Bledsoe. Among the names thrown around in the potential Kyrie trade rumor.
I'm going to be in Vegas this weekend, but I'm not working.
Brian, is this something or nothing? You think you're not working.
I'm not working. It's just an indication that LeBron's really trying to make it work with Derrick Rose.
All right, you think that's it? You see anything in the Bledsoe?
I definitely see something.
Yeah.
Which ball?
Yeah.
They always work out together.
Thanks, Frank.
Brian
Reviews
Woodhorse.
Jump Tape. You this week. Jackie and Wendy will be back tomorrow.
Brian
Sports
Woodhorse.
Station's next.